Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of Midweek Matters. I am your host, James Graham, joined by Charlie White, who's grinning like a Cheshire cat.
I'm just excited for this show, Jimmy. I've been looking forward to this all week.
I know you have. Go on.
Well, the main reason I've been looking forward to it is because as our loyal listeners will remember, you don't like anyone having any time off on their birthday, any birthday requests. You like to keep them to absolute nil. And so what did I got a call on Monday? Actually, it was a call over the weekend, panicking as your birthday's next Sunday. And of course, you're going to have to work for Triple M next Sunday. And you were panicking because, hang on a minute, the Canberra Raiders are going to win. They might get a home semi on Saturday.
This is a fabrication.
The Broncos
might
be playing on Saturday. You were really nervous about the NRL schedule and how it's going to unfold because somebody needed to wake up in their own bed for their birthday. Is that correct?
Well, sorry for wanting to spend the birthday with my kids.
You should be sorry because you said there should be no excuses on a birthday. Birthday's just another day.
Right. Will I still be going to work? Will I be having the day off?
Yeah, but you wanted to wake up early so you can wake up in your own bed.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the truth about things, right? I was happy to ride it out into this week. I don't particularly care for birthdays. They don't interest me.
So why do you have a birthday request then?
Because because it means something to my kids, not to me.
My birthday.
So hear me out, Charlie. Right. I didn't really want to alert you. So I was happy to wait until the finals got announced and then maybe look to request one of the games on the Saturday that hopefully would have been in Sydney.
Yeah.
But it was you that was flapping. If there's one thing I'm not, it's a flapper.
I'm not a flapper. I'm the opposite of a flapper.
You were like, well, but the Newcastle game will be on the Saturday because they won't do a short term.
No, I was...
You assumed that the Newcastle game would be on a Saturday and there was the Penrith Panthers were going to play the Warriors on the Saturday.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Because I tell you, Charlie.
No, there was what the talk was that Channel 9 wanted to have the women's doubleheader into the men's game in Newcastle, which would be on the Saturday. But the issue with that was the Knights had to be on Sunday because they've come fifth, so they're going to be versing the loser of the Panthers Warriors. It wouldn't have really been fair if they then put them on this Well, actually, no, that doesn't make sense. I had a reason why it would be on the Sunday, but now I've forgotten.
Yeah, you forgot. But here's the thing. So things that you were putting out hypotheticals. We thought it was going to be Newcastle at home on the Saturday and the Penrith Panthers at home on the Saturday. So I said, could I do the Panthers game if that's the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I already had Gerds on it. Panthers legend, Ryan Girdler, calling that game. So
is there two callers on that?
There was, but then
who was the other one?
Wendell.
Yeah.
Wendell Saylor.
Wendell Saylor. And let's all, I like to stick to the truth. You didn't want to sit in the car all the way to Newcastle with Wendell, did you? Your exact
I would have done a bus ride with Wendell, but a one-on-one drive is a long time.
Your exact
I love you,
words,
Wendell. I love you.
Your exact words were, I'm not sitting in the car with Wendell all the way to Newcastle and back.
That's not true. That's a blatant lie. That's a blatant lie. No, that's a blatant lie.
And now
I would love to be in a car with Wendell for 2 hours. In fact, I'll drive to Brisbane. I won't get the plane to Brisbane. I'll drive them all the way to Brisbane.
Anyway, you've been dying to get this off your chest. I know it's been coming, and that is the truth.
You've had a birthday request. So let the record show. Jimmy's had a birthday request because you also had a request.
Not for the day off.
Can't wait the Friday either. So you had 2 requests.
Can't wait
everyone else,
because I've got all the work.
What I'm saying is you become precious, okay? As the years gone on, you got more and more precious. And because, do you want to know? The only talent with a request for anything over the weekend, it was James Graham. And that's all I have to say. But Rockbusters, Jimmy. Rockbusters.
Hang on. What is it? If you don't ask, you don't get.
You don't receive, yeah.
You don't receive.
Yeah.
Just hold on before we fast forward to Rockbusters. Speaking of living in glass houses and throwing stones and, do as I say and not as I do. Rocked up today, pulled in to the car park. Oh, there's Tony. Hang on a minute. Who's parked behind him? Tony, is that Charlie's car there? Oh, yes, it is. Conveniently taking up 2 spaces. Yeah, and you've had a previous go at us for taking both Tony and I for taking up 2 spaces. I was forewarned. It's never happened again. And there you are.
Do you want to know why I did it? I had an elderly lady in my car with me, and I didn't want to have the door stop in front of the tree, so I held it forward for her. I rolled slightly further forward so she had to open the door towards a tree. She can get out on just concrete.
Why were you just driving around an elderly lady?
Side hustle Uber.
What's going on?
Nah, she's not actually that old. She's my mum. She's like 53 or something, so no. But anyway.
That is not a fair justification.
Yeah, I was in a rush, though, because I was running late here. So I had to just sort of
maybe Tony and I were running late that day as well.
Yeah, okay. Rockbusters, Jimmy, though, the winner last week. Yeah. I'll just remind the clue was a herb in wine country. A lot of people got it. Emma Tarrant was the winner of the T-shirt, so well done, Emma. The answer was Dylan Napa. Dill in Napa. Napa's a wine country in America. Dylan Napa. Jake Krabs gave me the clue for that as well, so thank you, Jake.
Well done, Krabby.
You're up, Jimmy, this week.
Did a lot of people seriously get that?
Yeah,
I reckon they've got the Dylan.
Dylan, yeah.
And then they've just gone,
Napa,
Dylan.
Napa Valley.
Well, yeah, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, okay. You need to get out more, mate. Read a bit more.
Read?
Read.
What's reading got to do with wine country?
If you read a book, if you're reading stuff, you might come across like facts about the world. Like the fact that one of the main wine regions in the world is the Napa Valley.
That's a
California.
random fact that you probably only know if you went. There's no like.
Well, you have to know.
Knowledge is nothing without application.
Where's the Colosseum? I have to go to Rome to know it's in Rome. Like, that's ridiculous, mate. Where's the Sydney Harbour Bridge? I have to go to Sydney to find that out.
Oh, you're full of shit, Charlie. You're just off me because I've exposed the truth, haven't I? You're just getting angry because you know.
Wendell doesn't listen to this podcast. I've been a sort of driver this year. We're going out to footy games together, and yes.
I've done you there, haven't I?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm so happy with that.
It's a shame it's a podcast. We can't cut anything out. Nah, we'll leave it in.
Here's the reason why Charlie doesn't want to go. Oh, no, Tony, that is going in. Okay. First one. All right, this one's for... Actually, I'll do this one for the listeners first. Put a bit of mustard on me bum.
This is the listener one, is it?
Yeah. I've put a bit of...
I know that.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't say it, obviously, because it's for people at home.
Yeah.
And also, we're going to be giving away this week. I've actually got the Tooheys socks here, the Tooheys hats, and I'm going to be giving away Jimmy's pair to the lucky guest, the lucky listener.
We're going to have to contact Tooheys and say, can we get some more socks?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right, then. Well, if you know that one, you want to let me... What is it?
Dejan Arce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dejan.
It's funny because a lot of people keep guessing Dejan Arce. Like, there was a few people guessed that for the lower part of your body. So it was front of mind for me.
Front of mind. All right. Well, this one, it's a little bit tricky. So this... Okay. This chef is only using one instrument, but he's just a kid.
But he's just a kid. Is this now for the listeners, this one?
Yeah. Sorry, actually, let me do that again.
Yeah.
This male chef is only using the one instrument, but he's only just a kid. Just as well for the listeners, with that Rockbusters, you might need to just think outside the box. It might just be someone that has a double barrel.
Okay. Double barrel, there's a clue for you. It's not Dallin Wateni Zalesniak, is it? The famous slang word for kids, Zalesniak? No. Anyway, Jimmy, it's finals footy. September, you can feel it in the air. There's only one place to start the show today. It's time for our favourite segment.
How do you feel, Jimmy? Let's find out. Thanks to Tooheys.
And all thanks to Tooheys, great supporters of the show. We love Tooheys. How do you feel? I feel like a Tooheys or two. Jimmy, we've got to start with the finals footy. We're going to go in depth now on every single game. There's so many question marks over all these different games, and really each game could go either way. And first up, Friday night, I think it's the match of the round personally. It's the Broncos against the Melbourne Storm, and it's up in Brisbane. The Broncos, Jimmy, this is quite interesting. I was on the Punters and Dribblers page this morning for Hello Sports, their fan page, and the Broncos, of the 17 players, only 2 of them have ever beaten the Storm. Adam Reynolds and Kurt Capewell. And if you add all the players together, they versed the Melbourne Storm 92 times, 6 wins, 86 losses.
Wow.
It's a pretty big hoodoo.
That is huge, Charlie. And thank you for doing that research, because I certainly wouldn't have picked that. But I did look, for me, Brisbane Broncos, they've passed every challenge and test they've faced so far this season. So we kept wait. They were going so well. What about Origin? Come out of Origin, they do really well. Like, look, we were waiting for them to drop in form. They had a couple of tough games. They rested a few players. They got through it, and they finished top 2. I wonder how much they regret not getting the victory last week, but they put that behind them now.
What does it matter, though? They would have had to play the Storm anyway. No matter what, they would have had the Storm round 1.
Yeah.
Because they would have beaten them, and then Warriors, win or lose, they would have stayed 3rd. So there's been a bit of that. Like, it's a different team playing this week.
Yeah. It is. But I think they had buys in round 19 and 25.
Yep.
So they should be fresh. Like, it's a bit of a testament to just how hard this competition is, that even though they've had that rest and they've had a lot of Origin representation, they still chose to rest all their players in round 27. And then if they win this game, they'll have another rest. So fatigue cannot be a factor for Brisbane. A lot of these players have played on big stages. That they shouldn't let the occasion get to them. Yes, it's slightly different in terms of finals, but yeah, I think Brisbane will have enough. I think they should grow another leg. That it's going to be so exciting to be up there. You know, Adam Reynolds steering them around. He's back. Reece Walsh in red hot touch. I think the fear for me is like Melbourne's experience in finals, and that they can come up with a plan to negate Reece Walsh, get after him, like playing within the rules of the game. But we all know Melbourne Storm have their ways of doing things, and I think they'll have his head on the chopping block. They'll go after Reece Walsh, and people have gone after Reece Walsh before.
New South Wales tried to. Failed.
You know, Joseph Tarpany at the end of that game against Canberra the other week. I think you look at Reece Walsh, he can be put off his game. Like, we've seen him react. But also, I think he's that good, and that you've got to absolutely go there and absolutely batter him. So we can't tap into the ability to dominate the game. And it's the sort of the dark arts of football a little bit. And then on the edges, Coach Bellamy, thorough in his attention to detail. He'll know Reece Walsh's game inside out, helped by Billy Slater, who's his coach in Queensland. So they'll be coming with a plan, which side of the field he favours, what his preferences are. So those outside backs, so Seve, Tonamapia, Coates and Warbrick, they're going to have a massive job. So because it's going to be up to them to make the decisions to shut him down. If Melbourne Storm can shut down the attack of Reece Walsh, they'll go a long way of doing it, because they know they're going to get there, because they've got so much good go forward. Flegler, Haas, Carrigan. They know they're going to get there. Getting down the field's not an issue. They pass the ball. Melbourne will have to be moving all the time, but Storm will have a plan for it. And if the Storm win, it'll be Jerome Hughes. That'll be man of the match.
Coming off from the MCL injury. So good that he's been able to get back for them and play.
Huge. But if Melbourne win, it'll be through his kicking game, and he'll be the one that'll ignite the Storm team, in my opinion.
Something that stands out for me is the bench of the Melbourne Storm. You've got Bronson Garlick, Tom Eisenhuth, Nelson Asofa-Solomona, and Ryan Pappenhausen. It's kind of an interesting mix, isn't it? You got Bronson Garlick, who's a hooker and can play a little bit in the back row as well. Tom Eisenhuth, who's, I guess he's versatile, but he's more of a back rower, isn't he? And then Nelson of Solomon, who's just a wrecking ball. And then you got Ryan Pappenhausen, who we saw how they used him, I think when he came back against the Raiders. I think that was his first game back. Oh, sorry, the Titans was his first game back.
Yeah.
And it was off the back of quick play the balls. He was then creating quick play the balls, bit of speed in the middle there later on in the game, took advantage of the tired legs of the Titans. And I think there was a try where it was Ryan Pappenhausen got a quick play the ball. Then Jerome Hughes snuck out a dummy half, got a quick play the ball. And then Harry Grant just put Christian Welsh over.
Yeah,
Is
you're
that
right.
how you see them using Ryan Pappenhausen? Like maybe he comes on in the second half?
Whenever it is, I think they'll be tag team and they need Nelson and Pappenhausen on at the same time. If they go with that run on side, it wouldn't surprise me to see Nelson come into the starting team. But that's an incredible combination to bring off as fatigue sets in. Those two around the middle. Yeah, the Broncos got some forwards that play long minutes, but when you're near the end of your stint, the last thing you want to see is that combination of the wrecking ball and the speed machine.
It's scary, isn't it? It's terrifying.
It is, and it goes to show how much this game is a 17-man game, and the yes, for all the skills, the brilliance, the speed, but the tactics and strategy of the coaches here, and there's not many better than Coach Belly.
No. I actually think he might start Bronson Garlick and then have Grant, Nelson and Pappenhausen on the bench. And then after like 20 minutes, they use Harry Grant, kind of how he's used for Queensland. Yeah. And how they've used him like that for a couple of games towards the back end of the year as well, where he's come off the bench. Funnily enough, that game against the Titans, he came off the bench. Round 26, he came off the bench. So
yeah, it wouldn't be a massive surprise, would it?
No.
Interesting. Just on the Broncos team, their decision to go with Jesse Arthurs, who's been fantastic all season, over the experience of Corey Oates. I think it's a brave decision from Kevy, and I think it's the right one. No matter what the outcome is, that's the correct decision. And it's a brave call from Kevy Walters to do that.
Yeah. And huge credit to Jesse Arthurs,
because
Corey Oates was playing Origin last year, and he's come in and taken that
Jesse
spot.
Arthurs has earned that spot. Make no mistake about it. Big decision for Kevy to make. And in my opinion, he's made the right one, no matter what happens.
So you're going Broncos to win in a close one?
I am. That's right.
Okay. Well, the second game then, Jimmy, it's the Saturday game. Different times than they normally have for finals this year. You got the Panthers playing at 4:00, and then the later game at 7:50 kickoff at Shark Park. And that first game, the Penrith Panthers against the New Zealand Warriors. The Panthers' defense is just incredible. You look at the stats; they are just miles and miles and miles ahead of the competition. They're averaging only 13 points per game against, and the Warriors. I thought their attack would have been higher than this, but they're kind of a middle of the pack attack. They've got the 7th most points this year. I just worry that do they have enough to properly break down Penrith? Because they're going to need to score I think they'll need to score 20 points to beat Penrith. And I just don't know if they are able to do that.
Yeah, you make a very, a couple of really good points there, Charlie. I think looking at this game, I would be setting up my defense for the Warriors. So Cogger has to win the game for Penrith.
Right.
Cogger has to come up with all the try assists. I'd structure my defense so when Nathan Cleary and Isaiah Yeo look up, they don't want the ball, or if they do, they look up against an extra player in the line, and then the ball's got to go to Cogger. And this is nothing against Jack Cogger; it's a compliment to Isaiah Yeo and Nathan Cleary. And Cogger's probably lack of experience, but if the Warriors are going to win, they need to take advantage of Jerome Luai not being there.
Do you think the Cowboys tried to do that though? They would have tried to do that themselves.
Yeah, but the Cowboys were just like the Cowboys coach said after the game, 16 of the 17 players didn't turn up today. Like the Warriors need everyone on board. The Warriors, yes, they need to do what they've done all season to get themselves in this position, but I think in your heart of hearts, and you go, right, if the Warriors played their best football of season 2023, and so do the Panthers, even without Luai, I think the Panthers win. But in this game in particular, I think you've got to set it up and say, if the Panthers win, they do it through Jack Cogger. And again, no offense to him, but he's not Jerome Luai. And that's what I would be. That would be the tactics. And you know what? It might go horribly wrong, but you go, you know what? We had a better chance of the unknown than the known of letting Isaiah Yeo and Nathan Cleary run the show.
Do you know who's also going to be running at Jack Cogger? Marata Niokora. He has been so good this year. And he's a big, scary body. And Sean Johnson gives him those balls close to the line.
And that's it. You look for mismatches in oppositions, and where you can find it's you only need one slight weakness, and then that whole defensive system. Yeah, they look after one another I don't think I've seen a team look after one another as well as the Penrith Panthers do. But if they can isolate him and put Niokore on top of him, then they might get a little bit of joy there.
All the talk's been about Lua being out, but the Warriors are missing their first choice 5'8" as well, Luke Metcalf.
Yeah, he's been so good this season, and it's an amazing game, but it can be so cruel at time, and that's what it is for him.
He's likely done for the year as well. It's quite a bad hamstring tear. But Tamari Martin played against Dolphins. He wasn't unbelievable in that game. There was a few sloppy passes. I think he threw a couple forward passes. He looked like he hadn't played in a while. He looked a bit rusty. He should be better for the week.
It'll be better for the run out for sure.
And Jimmy, Sean Johnson. Now, I've found this out this morning, and I think it's very interesting. Sean Johnson, he's only won 2 finals games his entire career. Do you want to know when the last time he won a finals game was?
Go on.
His rookie year, 2011, when the Warriors went on that run and made the grand final.
Seriously?
Hasn't played in a winning finals game since then. Does that mean anything? Like, to be fair, he's only played in 3 finals games since his first rookie season. But that's a interesting stat, I thought.
Yeah, it is. Well, he's been the star of the show for them this season, so
Is that concerning?
I think for the halfback not to have got the job done in mind you, how many opportunities has he had?
Three.
So he's only played 3 finals.
3 finals games since then. He's played 6 finals games his whole career.
Look, to be fair,
to
be fair, the Warriors are a different beast. He's a different beast this year, so it shouldn't be of a concern. Actually, no.
So have you got the Panthers?
Panthers, yeah.
Panthers by a big margin.
13 plus, I reckon.
13 plus, yep. Then the second Saturday game, Jimmy, it's going to be a cracking game. According to the Ladbrokes, this is the tightest of all the finals. At Shark Park, the Cronulla Sharks taking the Sydney Roosters. First of all, Shark Park. Surely it's a bit of a joke that's been played there. 12,000 people.
Look, if I was playing in that Cronulla team and was part of that organisation, Shark Park all the way, but I think for the greater good of the game, and you can say whether Cronulla have earned this right to play at home, but if this game was next week, it's not allowed to be at Shark Park. So why is it okay in week 1 of finals? And I think if this was the Sharks against a out of Sydney team that wasn't going to travel, then fair enough. But I think we've got to judge it on the fact that there's going to be a number of fans locked out, and it doesn't need to be that way. You know, with grand finals and semi-finals, fans will get locked out, or there should be enough demand to have fans locked out. But this is a game where fans shouldn't be locked out.
Your theory of how to fix this problem, I think, was brilliant. It's Allianz Stadium. You could play it there. It doesn't have to be Allianz. I know everyone's like, oh, it's a Roosters home game. But say you do play it at Allianz, you give the Sharks fans 48 hours to sell it out. If they do, great. If they don't, then the Roosters can buy the remaining tickets.
Yeah. I think in terms of like home field advantage in a stadium like Allianz, I think it's different. Like a stadium like Accor, it's different. It's not the same. It's not the same as the benefit that the Roosters would, or any perceived benefit that the Roosters would get from playing at Allianz isn't the same as what like the Sharks and Manly and the Dragons would get from their smaller home grounds.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. It's not that bigger advantage.
The only positive is you could say the Roosters have a very privileged football club. They got the best facilities ever. Shark Park's a bit of a dump, to be honest, in terms of like the locker rooms.
Yeah, look, but again, like it's for me, Charlie. It's not about that. And I stress, if I was a Cronulla player, we're playing here. I don't give a shit. But I think for the greater good of the game overall and the spectacle and everything that's involved, it should have been moved, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, these two teams have only played each other once all year. The Sharks won 22-12. The Roosters were up at halftime, but then sort of fell apart in the second half.
Yeah, they did.
But the Roosters are one of the only 3 top 8 teams that the Sharks have beaten this entire year. The Roosters, the Raiders, and Newcastle. And, I mean, the Sharks, they've got a real dilemma because you can see the name Will Kennedy in the extended squad.
I noticed that.
And Connor Tracy's a fullback.
And Connor Tracy's under a bit of an injury cloud
he
as
is,
well.
yeah, he is, yeah. It's a tough call, isn't it?
Big dilemma for Fitzgibbon. Huge dilemma. Spoke about Kevin Walters and his decision to go Arthurs over Oates. Like, because the Sharks have looked a different team since Connor Tracy has come in. But Will Kennedy at the start of the season and he's their number 1. I think if Tracy's fit, he's got to play. But I still don't think it'll be enough. I think the Roosters get this one.
Yeah.
The desperation that they showed last week and the fight that they showed last week, like, what was that for?
Yeah.
Like, was that to knock South out? I don't think it was. I think it was to come to Shark Park and get the win.
Yeah. Well, you could argue it's been the fight they've shown the last 5 weeks. They've won 5 in a row. It's been do or die for them since July, since the end of July when they lost the Broncos.
It goes back. So the conversations around the Roosters are, what have we just done that for? Like, why?
Yeah.
To win.
Yeah. And what's changed for them is their defense. Their defense has been unbelievable
Their
the last
attitude,
5 weeks.
Their scramble, their ability to smother, and the Sharks, like they haven't looked amazing. Their good game against Souths a couple of weeks ago, but
now is that as good a performance as we thought it was? Because it was the start of the decline, wasn't it, for South? So it's like everyone's been beating South lately. Is that as big a win as we thought?
Yeah, perhaps not. But I'm backing the Roosters in this one, in a tight one.
And the Cheese was here obviously on Monday, and he spoke about his body feeling as fresh as it's ever felt this time of year. And I think the Roosters, like, although they've gone this crazy run, you'd think if they've been in this do or die mode, there's going to be a bit of mental fatigue. But Sam Walker's only come back into the team since round 26. He's very fresh. Joe Marner's just had a week off with a hammy. Teddy had round 26 off with a HIA. Tupu's been replaced by Ponga, another fresh player. Jared Ria-Hargreaves been replaced by Baker, another fresh player. Sua Wong's only been starting since round 23. Like, half their squad's fresh.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And obviously Brandon Smith's had his injury issues throughout the year come back. And I know, obviously, huge friend of the show, but I've been so impressed with his form in the past month of football. Like, I think overall he's been Roosters' best in the past sort of 4 or 5 weeks, and a big reason as to why they're playing in finals. Like, his turnaround in form has sort of coincided with the Roosters' turnaround in form as well. So, hats off to him. 'Cause it was a struggle for him, really, wasn't it? Like, you know, he come in here every single week and he's just his bubbly self. But really, you know, like you've come to Sydney, like a lot of expectation, pressure, people saying, "Oh no, they've made the wrong call. He's not a hooker." He's proven his doubters wrong, and he's been a huge part of what they've done.
I just hope they keep winning, because we're going to lose him. We're going to have a drunk Brandon Smith possibly one Monday when we record because of Mad Monday.
Well,
I'm sure the Byron will take priority over Mad Monday, though, won't it?
Yeah, of course. Maybe he can bring some of his teammates in as well.
Yeah. Maybe they can have Mad Monday here and we'll just sort of record things, blur certain things out.
Few twoies.
Yep.
Yeah, just let them get after it. But, I mean, great content.
It would be great content. So you're going the Roosters in a close game?
In a close one, yes, I am.
Then the final game, Jimmy, we'll be hopping on the bus 9 a.m. Sunday morning, driving up the M1 to Newcastle for the Knights against the Raiders. This is, according to Ladbrokes, the most one-sided game this entire round. Knights are only $1.20. And it's probably fair because Ponga's back. It's kind of like two teams at polar opposites.
Yes, you're right there.
The Knights have won 9 in a row, and the Raiders have only won 2 from the last 7. And of those 2 wins, it's the Dogs and the Tigers. So teams that they should pump, really.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a tough day at the office for Ricky Stewart and his Canberra Raiders. The Knights are just in such good touch at the moment. Obviously, Ponga back, Hastings back. They're at home. It's theirs to lose. If Newcastle go out and play their best, it really is theirs to lose. And obviously, with a number of injuries and whatnot, to the Raiders, they're looking understaffed. So, if they are any chance of winning, I'd be. So I've been in situations like this where you go into a finals game and no one gives you a chance, and it takes someone to like drag you through, and a very special effort by people, and a certain belief. I don't know if Canberra can do that, but if they do, what I would be doing is appealing to a narrative, and that narrative would be Jack Whiten's last game, how he wants to be remembered.
Yeah,
I'd move him to 5'8" over Frawley, and I'd bring Croker into the centres and tap into those two narratives.
Yeah,
about like win it on emotion.
Yeah,
let's go up there, get the job done, win it on emotion for these two blokes, so that their Canberra Raiders journey doesn't end this Sunday.
And I'm sure Ricky Stewart would have an amazing speech.
Yeah,
in those moments.
That's how they do it. They win it on emotion, mate.
The with Ponga, AC injury, you just
he'd be fine.
Needle it up and go again. All right, he'll be fine. But would you have been tempted to have Lockie Miller on the bench as a little bit of a protection? Because if he goes down, obviously their bench is Kurt Mann, who's a utility, but he's more of a forward utility in my opinion. Like, yeah, he can play a little bit of the halves, he can play hooker, play a little bit of back row. Yes, you can put him in the centres if need be, and then move Gagai to fullback. But
Charlie, you do, yeah, you do,
yeah.
You find a spot for Lockie Miller
because he was pretty good. He was pretty good in the game on the weekend against the Dragons.
Just in case, because there's a high likelihood that you need to use Ponga as opposed to one of those players that might play like 15, 20 minutes. You just probably need to drag a little bit more out of one or two of the Saifiti boys. Adam Elliott, you make it work. You just make it work.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows, you only end up playing using 16 players.
Yeah.
But I think that's smart.
Because Ponga's apparently he's going to get an injection sort of in the warm-up and then another injection at half-time.
Yeah, and look, this is nothing new that players play with needles, especially in that AC shoulder area. This isn't anything groundbreaking. It's par for the course. A lot of forwards have it done. Those type of injuries that happen from to most players most of the years, it's not a big thing. But obviously with Ponga, he has a different style to most. No, it's not the most physical, but his movement patterns are a little bit different. And the last thing he needs is any aggravation in that shoulder.
Don't want to look too far ahead, but if the Knights win, they probably have the Warriors week 2. I reckon the Knights would be favourites for that.
It's certainly the path that you want.
And
it's
then,
certainly the side of the draw that you'd want to be on.
Yeah, Knights fans, they dare to dream, because then if they do win, say the Broncos win, they got the Broncos in the prelim final, who you're right, have had like week off, bit rusty. Knights fans. Do we dare to dream? I'm just looking forward to the bus trip up, to be honest.
Yeah, no, me too. It should be lots of fun. We're going to take a quick break from the podcast to tell you about AG1, the daily foundational nutritional drink with all your needs in the one place. I like to look after my health, and AG1 takes care of that for me. No more tablets, vitamin pills, all the health, nutrition I need, all in the one place. Every single morning, it's as easy. Open up the fridge, scoop of AG1 in a glass, cold water, stir it with a fork, drink it. It tastes great, and it helps me know. It gives me the peace of mind that all my nutritional needs are taken care of, all in the one drink. It really is as simple as that. And also, anybody that knows anything about health benefits knows that it comes with adding simple routines to your day. It's not about magic pills. They're not going to work. AG1 helps me be the best version of myself by having this new habit of every single morning having that drink, I know my nutritional bases are covered thanks to AG1. A lot of athletes are now taking AG1, and with 75 high-quality ingredients, it's no wonder why. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/buyround. That's drinkag1.com/buyround. Check it out.
Moving on then, Jimmy, it's a pretty quiet week news-wise, apart from finals. Finals are dominating, but yesterday a concussion report was presented to the Senate regarding concussion in sport in Australia and recommendations that sport needs to bring in rule changes to minimise concussion risk and encouraging the government to develop a national sports inquiry database where sporting codes and bodies can share concussion-related data. And then also universal protocols, which I found really interesting. They recommend a player take a minimum of 21 days out of competition after a suffering concussion. That's a big gap, 21 days. Like, you think someone goes down here week 1 of finals, we might not see them then until grand final day.
Yeah, well, firstly, I was part of this inquiry. I presented at it from a former player's point of view. Very grateful for the Australian government to take this issue seriously. I'm very grateful to be in a country that has the ability to take this seriously as well, because there's a number of issues in society and the world that require the resources of government and where they should be focusing their attention. So the very fact that this particular injury in our sporting
Landscape,
is important. I feel very grateful that we have the ability and the time and the resources to do that. I think for me, obviously, the recommendation about government overriding the sporting governing bodies, why would they do that? Well, it's to protect people and protect governing bodies probably from themselves and look for the greater good. It's such a difficult topic to actually apply much knowledge to. We can all recognize that concussions are bad. That there's no perfect solution in this, because for all the medical evidence, right, and I'd never dispute that, you've also got on the other side of the scale the athlete's psyche and what they're willing to sacrifice. So there's a very interesting study done called Goldman's Dilemma, where they speak to a number of athletes about the promise of a gold, take the pill, promise of a gold medal. The caveat to that is that you lose your life in 5 years, but you get to be guaranteed a gold medal. Now, the results of this study have changed over time, and obviously it's a hypothetical, so it's easy for me to say, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Or no, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
But then if it's actually there, yeah, and it's not real, it's just hypothetical. But the very fact that even if one person takes it sort of shows about the athlete's psyche. So one of the dangers with this about mandating any sort of stand down policy is, currently speaking, Charlie, how do you diagnose a concussion?
It's all personal reporting, isn't it? You got to be honest about if you're feeling headaches, honest about your vision being blurry, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So we can see when someone gets knocked out.
Yeah.
And we go, that equals concussion, right? That's fair to say. But is that what only a concussion is? No, it's not. So currently, as it stands today, as far as I am aware, the best form of diagnosis is honesty. So I'll put yourself in that highly motivated athlete's shoes that is part of a collision, but doesn't get knocked out, clearly something has happened. And you're weighing up whether or not you think you should or shouldn't be honest about it. Based on the fact that you've got a mandatory 21-day stand down.
Could miss the grand final.
Mr. Grand Final.
Could miss an Origin game.
Which for a lot of people, you go, well, you always put your long-term health first. And I've had this with this
We don't
argument.
always put a long-term health first. So most
No,
of
of
us
course
go
we
out
don't.
on the weekend and drink 1,000 drinks and then wake up feeling rubbish on a Sunday. And we all do things to ourselves that are dangerous, Might speed sometimes. We might,
we do a lot of things that reduce our health span and our life expectancy, things that increase all-cause mortality and reduce it. We all do that, and we have, a lot of people with their consumption of alcohol, their caloric intake, it goes against the recommendations, and it actually costs government and a health service. So, just going back to that argument, you can just completely crush, because again, you're dealing with highly motivated athletes.
Yeah.
So what's more important, the optics of it, giving lip service, or actually trying to help people? Because what might happen with that player that may be facing a 21-day stand down, there might be an element of concussion, and they're faced with this dilemma about whether or not to be honest. So for me, I don't know. I'm not a medical expert. I don't know if you're recovered from a concussion after 21 days and that's completely safe, if that's an overreach to cut, how we all recover. We all recover from different illnesses, different injuries. There's no specific exact time frame. So in this particular, so if I have a knee injury, a medial, and someone goes 2 weeks, am I all right after 13 days?
Depends.
Am I all right after 13 days and 12 hours?
Depends.
Exactly. So I appreciate what we're trying to do here, but I'm looking at it from a critical point of view, but a very serious one, because I understand that we need to be careful that by trying to fix the problem, and this is where I come from here, this is where my point comes from, by trying to fix the problem, we actually make the problem worse. And there is a slight danger of that. So I would like to see the education given to the athletes and the coaches about the dangers of not telling the truth when it comes to this. And they need to take into account the fact that players will lie because they put their sporting aspirations above absolutely anything. Charlie, I was knocked out on national television on a Saturday afternoon, week one of the finals, playing for the Dragons against the Brisbane Broncos, and 6 days later, I was allowed to play.
Well,
that shouldn't be allowed.
No, and that's still happening now. Last year in the finals, Mitchell Moses got knocked out and then played again in the prelim still. So it's still happening now. The thing about the rule changes is like some of these rule changes, like, oh, okay, you can only tackle, like rock rubber union now, you can only tackle above the chest. Correct me if I'm wrong, do most concussions happen to the person making the tackle in league compared to the person actually running at the line?
Well, I don't know. I don't actually know the data. I don't know the data on that, but there's
the eye test tells me most of the concussions this year are heads colliding. Normally, it's a lot of the time friendly fire.
What's called friendly fire.
Yeah.
Is the ball carrier the one that's subjected to most concussions, or is it the tackler lowering the height? And obviously, we look at the rugby union. I think they did announce that in all but professional, they were going to lower their tackle height to the waist.
Yeah.
Which I think for our sport, we're a different game to rugby union because of the distance between the distance between the players. They're separated by 10 meters for obvious reasons. But I think with rugby union, they are a little bit of a mess at the moment. Anybody that's followed the Owen Farrell case recently was sin-binned, the TMO then turned it into a red card. He was suspended. That was then appealed. Again, I'm confusing the timeline of events, but then that decision not to suspend was then challenged by World Rugby. So it's all a little bit of a mess in that sport over there. I think for me, what we can do is we can look to make rules, look at our game and go, okay, the product is important, but we want to look to reduce the number of concussions. So you would look at it. So in rugby union, they record it. Number of concussions per 1,000 hours. And I think it's around about 17. Overall, I don't know the numbers in rugby league. I've not been privy to that information. But you'd look to reduce the number of concussions per 1,000 hours or reduce the number of concussions per 1,000 collisions. That's what you'd look to do. Now, how can we do that? Maybe it's not even about reducing concussions as a whole. Maybe it's about reducing those, the severity of the concussion. What events are most likely to lead up to a concussion? So one of those, I would guess, would be the kickoff, the restart. So it's the furthest amount of space that players, the greatest distance, which generates the highest amount of speed, which then generates the highest force, significantly increasing, in my opinion, the risk factor of a concussion being sustained by both A, the ball carrier, and B, the tackler or tacklers.
And my issue with that is we talk about the product. The world is getting more and more sanitized sort of in all aspects of life. And you talk about the product. That's one of the best parts about rugby league is that first hit up in Origin, for example, that first hit up in a grand final. Yeah. So you want to get rid of one of the most entertaining parts of the game. We've got to be realistic. It's these are sports where it's dangerous to play. It's dangerous to play rugby league. It's dangerous to do boxing. It's dangerous to do UFC. So we can't just sanitize the sports because then you may as well say, oh, it's too dangerous, just make them all illegal.
Well, again, you make a great point. And so why do these players do what they do? There's a number of reasons, but also why do people watch that? And why?
Because they could watch volleyball, very safe volleyball.
Because they want to see people do things that they can't comprehend doing themselves. And there's something about seeing there's an attraction, believe it or not, in the human psyche to watching violence.
Yeah,
there is, and not everybody will. Sorry, not everybody will agree with that statement. But for the overwhelming majority of people, there is an attraction to seeing physical violence.
Yeah. Well, hence why UFC is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. And so it's modern day. It's a modern day gladiator.
And also, you can make a case for the fact that these individuals, they choose to go into this voluntarily. They are actually attracted to the risk and the violence. Society as a whole is greater that they've got this outlet to, especially in their late teens and 20s and early 30s to be on that rugby league field or a rugby union field or an octagon or a boxing ring or whatever it may be. And also these people are compensated financially for taking on that risk and appealing to the sense of purpose, but also entertaining. It's so complex and it's so people don't understand about this is a bit of my point about I just hope that the thinkers and the people behind these decisions in implementing these policies are aware of how complex and these decisions are, because if you focus on one area, i.e. reduction of concussion, then you affect a number of other areas. And if you focus on, okay, well, we're just going to put this mandatory 21-day stand down, knowing that's now even more than what the sports governing bodies have, you actually make the problem worse. And I would really, really like to see a more emphasis on the focus of education and telling these players that I get what it's like to be out there as a highly motivated athlete. I don't want to let my coach down. I don't want to let my teammates down. But actually, you know what? The message needs to go to them, in my opinion, that it's you being out there after knowing you are concussed. There's no diagnostic tool to say yes or no, you are concussed. You have to know for these number of these are the symptoms that you will display or suffer. So it becomes a case of the need to be honest, and you not being honest means you're actually detrimental to the performance of the team. And also, here's another thing in terms of, like, for me, like, I didn't want to let anyone down, and I know I played with players that didn't want to let me down. But when I say that, what's letting me down is letting me down not getting up after a concussion and tying in, or getting up after a concussion and, playing out the rest of that game, or is letting me down knowing you carried on and suffer from a degenerative brain issue in 10 or 20 years' time. Knowing you did that.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I get what you're caught up in the bubble of playing, and there's nothing more serious than playing for St. Helens, playing for England, playing for Great Britain, playing for the Dragons, playing for the Bulldogs. There's nothing more important than that. But with some education and a change of culture, it might be, no, maybe it is that maybe in that moment, letting them down, but the reality is letting me down in 20 years' time.
It's an issue, Jimmy, that's just going to continue the challenge sport over the next few years. And there is no right answer to any of this stuff at the moment.
That's right, Charlie. But I think as well, like what the government are trying to do, this really needs to be implemented in children and amateur sports. I can't stress that highly enough.
And
because
the report does include
the NRL,
grassroots
that
sports.
isn't the AFL, that isn't the Rugby Union World Cup. It's not the Women's World Cup semi-final against the Lionesses.
No.
Like, it's not.
Yeah.
So in junior participation, in bush football, in non-professional leagues, like, you have to do an overreach.
Yeah.
You have to, some people may perceive as overreact, because that as well as education, but with the top level sport, we understand that there's an element of risk that people enter into voluntarily. They get heavily compensated financially. They set themselves and their families, and they can have a massive impact on the community. But also, Charlie, I've got to say this as well, that for anyone out there listening, there's an element of risk and danger with our sport, but there's also an absolute overriding multitude of benefits for the individual, the community, and society in general that our sport brings, and that should not be overshadowed by the fact that we are treating this element of risk with the degree that we are at the moment.
100%. You couldn't have said it better, Jimmy. And this report does include grassroots sport as well.
Brilliant.
It's an overarching, it's universal protocols that they're looking to put in place across all sports, all levels of sport. But let's move along, because it's been a bit of a longer episode, Jimmy, than normally is, but it's finals.
We had lots to get through, didn't we? We obviously had your driving story, massive previews for the game.
Yeah, you got me this week.
Big concussion report, lots to dive into there. Yeah. But then the Rockbusters, final note for the fans, just letting everybody know that this might be somebody with a double barrel and only 2 of those names used. But again, the clue
only
is
2 of those names used. Oh, so you haven't even given a full clue. You've done half a clue.
Well, all will be revealed. They'll get it.
You should probably think of something for the first name as well.
Well, I do have it, but then it just adds to the complication.
Okay, well, can you remind us what the clue was before we go? And just a reminder, we're giving away Jimmy's pair of the Tui socks. That's Jimmy Graham's pair of the Tui socks. They're white. They're very nice. If you wear them with a pair of shorts, you can wear them with a pair of jeans. You can do it however you like. Enjoy a can of Tui's in your Tui socks. We've also got some hats. We won't be giving away a hat this week. It's just Jimmy's pair of the Tui socks that are given away. Well, and because we've said it now, we have to do it, because he's looking at me like, you're not giving away my socks. Well, Jimmy, we are giving away your socks.
They're gone, aren't they? Okay, well, here we go. I can do the first name.
Okay.
Maybe Tony will have to put this in at the start
as well.
No,
it's fine. We'll just.
But maybe a lot of people have zoned out.
Well, then that's their fault. Then they're not worthy of the Tui socks.
Okay, well, here's a little bit extra for the full clue. Gonna have me cuppa with this type of biscuit. But that fella, he only uses that one instrument in the kitchen, and he's only a kid.
That is a tough one this week. That is a tough one for listeners, but
So let
someone
me
will get
let
it
me just let
because
me go
they're
again.
very good.
Right. I'm gonna have me cuppa
Yeah.
with that biscuit. The fella, the lad in the kitchen, he only uses that one instrument, and he's only a kid.
Interesting. It's not Ben Murdoch-Masilla, obviously.
No.
No. That's just a double barrel name. First one that came to my
Yeah,
head.
first one that came to mind.
Yeah. We'll see you next week then to preview week 2 of finals.
Yes.
Also, great interview you did with Braithen Asset coming out on Sunday.
Yes, absolute cracker. Stay tuned for that one, everybody. Thanks for listening. It's been a fantastic episode of Midweek Matters. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the finals.